Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I look at 1997 and 2000 Topps Gallery football cards. In the mid-90s, Topps had a tough time playing the game of coming up with crazy different concepts for cards. They had a couple of concepts they come up with early on, mainly with Stadium Club and with Finest, and then the different ideas they had off of Finest. Those held up over the years, but in the mid-90s, there was this big chaotic affair where every single card company was coming up with strange, crazy ideas. And Topps had a tough time with this. They really did. In football, for instance, in 1996, they had their Topps Gilt set, which was, they made a similar kind of set in hockey. Neither of those worked. You only had 1 year of it. You also had Topps Laser in football, which they also did in baseball. And again, didn't really work, so it was an interesting idea, but it didn't go anywhere. But over in basketball and in baseball, earlier on in the decade, they'd come up with an idea called Topps Gallery. And Topps Gallery was, it was about making some really fancy cards that were just kind of fancy cards. There was a very basic concept around it. And in basketball, it didn't get any legs, or it didn't get legs right away. It got revived a little bit later on. But in baseball, they were able to actually stick the landing, so they were able to continue that down the road. Well, in football, they decided by 1997, let's try that. And it was a strange year for them to choose for it, because the set in 1997 was unique, I'll say that. The cards in the set are very thick and they're heavily, heavily lacquered. So they really do have a fancy quality to them, but there's also kind of a cheap quality to them, which is an interesting combination. The cards are built around having a big frame around the outside, centered around a picture. And the picture is, so for the first portion of the set, it's based on rookies. That's the theme. And the pictures for the rookies come from the rookie photo shoot, which means that they tend to come out really strong and really impressive. The silver band around the outside is just a simple frame, and the cards really do look pretty nice. The second section of the set looks at younger players, and here they have a green border that it has kind of a metallic quality to it, which could have some merit, but they didn't really design the frame very well. And then the third section is these are the long-standing veterans. These are the stars as we would typically look at them. And this is more of a bronze finish on the border. And these they put a whole lot more time into, so they actually look like picture frames, and they are really quite nice cards. So the cards in this set, this is the way that all the cards are. They come in the three sections. And so each section of the set has its own theme and it has its own design. Each one of the cards has the same card back. So the card front, card back, only the card front changes from one to another. And you may notice that the card number is actually on the front. It's not on the back, which is not something I would advise. Unfortunately, when you do that, it's really difficult to work with the cards, and it's difficult to read the numbers, because the numbers they're difficult to find even if you know where they are, just because you get distracted and you're not used to it. And it can be difficult to read because of the busyness of the card, but also, like in this case, it has some slight embossing to it, and the metallic effect is kind of problematic, so it doesn't work well. But I did mention about the embossing. All of these cards are embossed. It's embossed around the outside, around the frame and the details, not around the image. So the cards, there is a parallel for this set, and it is the entire set. Every single card in the set comes with both the regular one and the parallel, and the parallel is called Private Player Issue. In the case of this, the whole border is changed to, it's a black border, gorgeous black lacquered border that's designed kind of like a leather pouch kind of design with some studs. And every single card uses the same parallel. So the regular cards have three different themes, but all the cards have the same back, and all the parallels have the same front border. And also the nameplate changes a little bit for the border, but all the cards do have that same design for the parallel. Now, the concept around private issue is that supposedly they had given away half of these cards to players. So it was like an interactive affair where the players then had half the cards to do whatever they wanted with it. I don't know the actual history of it being carried out, but that is the concept behind it, which is the reason for the name of it. At any rate, this is the way they came, and they did come. The parallels did come in packs, so it's not like they only came from players. And whether it was half that were in packs or actually all of them in packs, I really don't know. But again, that is the concept. So the set itself, there wasn't really a lot to it, but the inserts were actually pretty good. And the first insert set was called Critics' Choice. This is players who don't get as much fanfare, and the cards have kind of a Stadium Club-like look. And I mean Stadium Club inserts at this time. It had a look similar to that. The cards still have the same thickness, and they have a foil surface. So the cards it's a little bit distracting. The images don't really read too well. But you can tell it's not Stadium Club because it does have the Topps Gallery logo on it, so that is really helpful. Then they also have Gallery of Heroes, and Gallery of Heroes is a plastic card, and it's partially see-through. It's designed like a stained glass. It's designed as a stained glass. So it has a stained glass pattern in the see-through, which is really gorgeous. It really does look neat. And it also has a border around the outside that is designed like a window. So the card carries in both ways. It really is a gorgeous set, and I would love to have this set done, but I'm not the only one who thinks this is a gorgeous set. So it is pretty popular, a little tough to get. But I love the technique they came up with. And I wish that this came through in like binders. It is a little bit tricky to fully appreciate these cards because you got to have a clear way to look through, and you got to have a light source behind. But if you do, it does look really cool. Then they also have the Peter Max serigraphs. And the serigraphs, Peter Max was an artist, and he created different designs for each of the players in the set. Now they all have a border around the outside, but how he approached the border was different from player to player. And he did have a couple of different themes for the art on the inside, but not many. It was pretty similar throughout the card set. But the big thing with these cards is that on the card back, they all have different card backs. This was unusual. He made a different art piece for each back that they all have kind of a Hawaii Pro Bowl theme. Well, I shouldn't say that. They have a Hawaii theme that I think was inspired by the Pro Bowl. I think that was the concept they went with. But this is another one of the sets, another popular set. But this also has a parallel that is, in this case, autographed by Peter Max. The Peter Max cards are very difficult to come by, but that parallel does exist. And then the last section the last insert for the set was their photo gallery. And photo gallery can really throw you off because this very, very much looks like a Stadium Club insert. Fortunately, we have a Topps Gallery logo on the card to tell the difference, only we don't, and that's the problem. This is a card that you're not necessarily going to know is a part of Topps Gallery unless you actually know about Topps Gallery. So this is one where some of you may be going, oh, that's what it is. Yep, that's what it is. So Topps Gallery, actually quite nice. I wish that the images stood out better, but with the highly lacquered surface, it does still read well. So this is the other insert set that they did for 1997 Topps Gallery. Now, the card set didn't take off, and it doesn't really surprise me because these were expensive cards and they didn't really have the kinds of things that you would truly want to pursue. So for 98 and 99, they just abandoned Topps Gallery. But in 2000, they decided to take another shot at it. They were already back to making basketball cards, may as well get back into football cards. And the 2000 design was more of a staid and traditional card set. The cards have a more traditional border around the outside. It's off-white. This has relief. It's not embossed, but it does have a relief on it that has a canvas print type of an effect. So they do have a tactile feature to them. They have gold foil up at the top and then a really good framing of images that come through pretty well. And the cards do come with a player private issue parallel where they replaced the gold foil with silver foil. Down at the bottom, they do have a little strip that can be difficult to read that says player private issue, but on the card back they have gold foil stamping of serial numbering out of 250. And they didn't break the set up into 3 sections like they had done in 1997. In 2000 they just had a straight run, but they did have subsets at the back, and they had 3 subsets. So the first subset was Masters, and Masters is your long-standing veterans. In this case, they still have the gold foil, but the image is a lot more prominent. These come through a lot better. They read a lot better. The cards do have the parallel, so every single card in the set does have the parallel, all numbered out of 250, so mirrored with 1997. But regarding the 3 themes, they have the Masters, and then they have their Artisans, and the Artisans are the younger players. And then they also have their rookies, which they call the Apprentices. And so these 3 themes are what closes out the set. Now, all of the Masters and Artisan cards, they show up in the main set. So the only subset cards that are only one-offs are the rookie cards, the Artisans. That's the only case. All the others are duplicated, so a lot of players do have 2 cards in the set, or 4 when you include the parallel. And then they do have autographs, standalone autographs here in this set. So these autographs, the cards are designed to be autograph cards. They're not designed, they're not recreations of other cards. They are actually designed for their own purpose, but the design is built around the same concept as the main cards in the set. So they really do carry the tradition across, but they are distinctive. Then they also have their exhibition set. And the exhibition is a card that can really throw you off because these cards look almost exactly like the main cards in the set. Now, the card back does not look like the main cards in the set, but the card front really does. And so you got to know that these are inserts. Again, if you turn the card over, it becomes incredibly obvious, but if you don't, it'll throw you off. They again did the Gallery of Heroes, and in the Gallery of Heroes, it's again the stained glass, but they die cut it in a different way. So the design around the stained glass was not one concept that just had different colors. They actually used the team logo, or in some cases, it was actually a helmet, but in either case, they put that up by the corner and then die cut around whatever logo it was, and made the card, that was what gave the card interest. I happen to really think the 97 card design is way, 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 way better, but they were still doing this, although it was coming to a close, so at least they did still have it around. And they also had started doing Topps Heritage cards here in this set. In this case, what they did was they took the first card design for football cards in Topps history. They took that out of the 1950s and they reused it for this card. Card front and card back is designed around that same design from the 1950s. And I wish that they had done a better choice with the design, because really at the end of the day, it's not one that ports well into modern cards. It's designed around having a matte finish from the cardboard cards, the way they were printed. When you get them glossy, it just doesn't look good. The colors really don't read well. Plus, there's a lot of saturation in these cards. It was not the first choice that I would have gone with. But these cards have a parallel, and the parallel is the Topps Heritage Proof cards. On the front, the big difference, there is a color difference, but the big difference is that the whole background is a matte surface. So it actually has a different tactility, whereas the border, the image, all of that stuff is still glossy. So there's a difference between them. And a better way to tell is if you hold the card upright, turn it around, even though the card back is now sideways. Down at the bottom is a little line of black text that says Topps Heritage Proof. So that is how you tell the difference. But they also have another parallel where, just like with the Peter Max serigraphs, these are artist autographed. But unlike Peter Max, in this case, they actually printed the card on a canvas-like surface. So the whole card is very different. And these are all individually serial numbered out of 175. So, once again, artist autographed. And then they closed the whole set off with Proof Positive. And this is where they have 2 players, a veteran and then a younger player, and they have a split. It's another plastic see-through card like the Gallery of Heroes. And they have it split, so one side is just a regular image and the other one is a see-through effect where if it's not see-through, the player comes through extremely dark. Once you get the light through, it actually comes through as really kind of cool. And it was a small set, 2 different players on each one, and they don't flip it around. They have it in only one design. And that was Topps Gallery for 2000. They would continue it for 2 more years in football. I'm not going to look at that here. I just want to look at the first 2 years that they created. The next 2 years, it gets kind of, it's a very different feel. So it works well to talk about those 2 sets as standalones because they fit together as a pair, but they don't fit with either 2000 or especially with 1997. But at any rate, that is the story of the first 2 years of Topps Gallery in football. And if you have any questions about it, definitely leave me a comment down below. If you haven't subscribed yet, definitely subscribe and ring the bell to be notified. Do check out other videos that I've done. And yeah, thank you very much for watching.